Joining Saudi Mining News. It's a pleasure to have you today. Could you walk us through a little bit about what Ajlan and Brothers does in the Saudi mining supply chain? How do you support?
So Ajlan and Brothers, it sees itself as an enabler for the Saudi Mining Vision 2030, and it has multiple pillars that align to that. We tend to, from a mining perspective, go into joint ventures, which are typically on a 50-50 or thereabouts basis, with mining houses, where we partner with a different mining house. We provide the Saudi local knowledge and the Saudi capability to help those businesses come into Saudi Arabia, help them set up, help them with a lot of the local regulations and different aspects of operating in Saudi Arabia. And then as part of that, we bid for exploration licenses, work with them in terms of exploration through a joint venture company. And, if we find something, we actually bring equity into that partnership. So it's not a free carry, it's actually a partner that has the financial capability to actually contribute in a positive way into the joint venture.
Interesting. So you have committed like almost USD 14 billion for mining and mineral projects. What is the top strategic objectives behind, that financial commitment, and where do you want to invest that amount?
So the portfolio sits across, really four different areas. So starting off at the exploration, with those partners looking at bidding for exploration blocks, undertaking the exploration, developing the capability and the mineral capability of Saudi Arabia. Then if we were to find something, moving that across into a mining operation. So actually mining that capability and the minerals here in Saudi Arabia. But Ajlan actually looks also at the vertical integration and building that vertical integration of a business and the capability here in Saudi Arabia. So we also look at refining and processing, then potentially through to downstream use as well.
Right.
We also see ourselves again as an enabler for bringing technology and capability into the kingdom. So where there are gaps in the mining industry and it makes sense, we look to joint venture with technology providers to bring them into the market to provide specialist technology that may be a gap in the market. An example of that is Alfred H. Knott, where we have a 50-50 partnership, which will develop the first metallurgical testing lab in Saudi Arabia, along with analytical capability. So that's fixing a hole where that capability just wasn't in the Saudi Arabian market, and people had to go external to Saudi Arabia to actually do that type of work.
Interesting. So let's stay on the cutting edge tech and all that. If you had access to cutting edge AI and data analytics tools, which part of your mining value chain you would focus on? Exploration, resource modeling, operation, logistics, marketing?
Again, my background, my experience is probably more operational. So I can speak to the operational aspects of it. It does have some applicability across the whole value chain, particularly when you're looking at a lot of data and trying to understand trends. But from an operational point of view, I've been in mining operations where using AI and modern technology, the processing plant, in a lot of respects, can be run almost autonomously. And it has the ability, if it's designed properly, to interpret the ore that's coming into the plant, understand what that requires from a processing point of view, be it throughput rates, reagent usage, so that it maximizes the recovery and product quality out of the back end. So, that's definitely one area that we would look potentially to deploy AI. And it has a really exciting application in the future for Saudi farmers.
Interesting. And what would you call a good AI and a bad AI from operational perspective?
Again, AI is a tool. So it needs good data. It needs the wide variety of data to be able to learn from. And it needs the ability to have that wide spectrum. If you have an operation that you're trying to use AI in, and it hasn't had the capability to see that variance, anything that sits out of its previous learning will not be something that it's capable of doing. So understanding where the limits of AI are, understanding what's required to give your AI process the right bandwidth of data to give it adequate control is absolutely critical. You go back to the old computer adage of garbage in, garbage out. If you don't set it up properly, you can't expect it to give you the right results at the back end.
Yeah, that's true. And let's talk a little bit about your JV structures. You have partners like Moxico, Norin. What do you look for in a technical or a financial partner before you form a consortium?
So what we're looking for is a partner that has mining experience predominantly. So the capability to run operations and bring that operational knowledge into the kingdom, along with the financial capability to actually deliver the project. So, they need to have that ability to be a good partner, work in a positive way with us, and also have that willingness and capability that if we do find opportunities here, they can take those next steps with us to actually bring them into operation. So we normally look for a business partner with a market capitalization over $1 billion US, because that gives them the financial capability, to build potentially the operations once we move from that exploration phase into an operation phase.
Interesting. And you mentioned exploration. How do you ensure, like, what KPIs or let's say particular areas you look for to make exploration, expenditure successful?
Again, Saudi Arabia, I think, has taken a very mature approach to exploration. In that when you bid for exploration blocks, unlike other countries where you bid to own it, you're actually showing and bidding a program to Saudi Arabia to actually undertake work. And that you have to submit an actual program of work, timing of work, your ESG social programs associated with that work. And then the Ministry of Mines actually reviews your progress against that scope of work and whether you're delivering it. And the aim of the government is for people who bid for exploration blocks to deliver the exploration and also to deliver the social engagement so that people understand the potential value of that exploration and the potential value of anything that comes after that as well. So, and also not to be a disruptive force in the community, but to also be a positive force in the community and show them the opportunities that mining potentially can bring and offer them in that area as well.
That's true. That's interesting. Let's go a little bit about your, asset portfolio. You have minerals and metals like zinc, copper. Project is one of your flagship assets, right? And what makes this deposit strategically more important for your company?
Strategically, it's a very good deposit, both for Ajlan, Mexico, and for Saudi Arabia. Zinc has a lot of use and a lot of consumption here in Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
So, it's part of the opportunity for Saudi Arabia to become mineral independent, and to have its own source of critical minerals. So the opportunity to have both zinc concentrate and then copper gives us the opportunity to develop firstly the mine. At the same time, we are looking at the downstream processing of that and potentially building a zinc smelter. So we'll be able to take the concentrate into a metal form. And then that metal, can either be exported or it can be used internally within Saudi Arabia. And there are multiple businesses in Saudi Arabia that are looking, rather than importing zinc, potentially using the zinc that we can produce to be used and consumed here in Saudi Arabia.
Okay, interesting. And in terms of your geopolitical risk and supply chain, if you have JV partners, obviously you're exposed to the supply chain risk. How do you plan to, manage in the coming years? We've seen a lot of things happening, copper prices going up, geopolitical situation in Venezuela and Iran and other countries. How do you manage that risk within your portfolio?
For our portfolio at the moment, the majority of our investments in Saudi Arabia. So Saudi Arabia is a very stable environment. It has good governance. You have a government that's looking to promote and develop the mining industry. So from a geopolitical risk in terms of our operations, I think that's very low. And that's one of the enhanced or positive aspects about, the Vision 2030 and Saudi Arabia promoting mining in the country. But yes, in terms of the offtake of minerals and where that offtake goes to, again, that's a very interesting and rapidly developing environment. the combination of potential uses in country versus the competition for those minerals externally is something that I think you see it now where it's rapidly evolving. And again, I think Saudi Arabia, from a strategic point of view, in developing its mineral resources, particularly those minerals that they can and do use internally, provides a very strategic long-term viewpoint. But yeah, it's something that I think will be very dynamic, hope over the next probably 5 years. And then hopefully after we see the current issues around global stability hopefully resolve, we'll get into a much more stable environment.
Interesting. That's good to know. And my last question, what 3 predictions you have for the mining industry 2026 to 2028 for the next three years, and what investors should look out for when they invest in Saudi, how not to get it wrong?
Again, I think being relatively new to the Saudi market, it's a very dynamic market. It's a very interesting market. We were commenting that when you look at FMF 2026, there's a big focus on exploration geology. What I see happening over the next several years, with the granting of the 3 mining licenses yesterday, we're seeing the commencement of the transition from exploration into mining and operations. So you'll see the focus start to shift, and you'll probably see consolidation in the exploration and the geophysics area, move into construction, equipment supply, component supply, and that commencement of the construction and development of operations. Then further beyond that, the support of those operations. So I think there's going to be a huge market in terms of not just equipment, engineering, construction, but then all of the external support and logistics that has to come into the country to support those frontline jobs. So things like camps and accommodation, transport. So while we're doing construction, bringing components from the port to the mine site for construction, as we produce materials, transporting those materials from the mine site either to port or to a point of refining. Those service industries, I think, will undergo a massive growth over the next probably 3 to 5 years.
Okay, all right. And yes, the last part of the question, what 3 things, investors can get it right when investing in Saudi? What not to do and how to get it right?
I think they need to understand that Saudi Arabia is a different country. As much as Saudi Arabia is promoting investment and wants investment, people need to come here with the right philosophy and approach. There are requirements around the social engagement programs. There are requirements around developing people here, local content, and making sure that you are a good corporate citizen here and that you are delivering value to the country, to the people here, and to the business itself. We need to learn how to work here. Again, I think there will be a lot of opportunity in terms of training, development, growing people, growing that pipeline of capability and knowledge transfer. So it's about coming here and seeing, the country for what it is and the opportunities are here, but actually investing into Saudi Arabia and making sure that we have a very sustainable business here. There is the potential for a very long mining life of operations here. So, it's not a short-term viewpoint we need to take. We need to be thinking like the Saudi government does. Where do we want to be in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years? What does that look like? And what's that journey look like from now into the future? And how do we enable that and work with Saudi Arabia to achieve its vision?
All right. Thank you so much for talking to Saudi Mining News. I wish you all the best.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much.